Oh, that thing always goes away. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Where's my little thing? There we are. That's what we want. All right, we have viewers. Okay. So, 2 to 6. Hooray. I'm glad to see people tuning in. We're just going to give a few more people a chance to show up for Thursday today. Hooray. Hi, Cheryl. Um, Great to see people tuning in on a Thursday. Gorgeous weather out there, although by the reading on my computer screen here, it almost looks like the temperature is starting to drop. Well, we've been spoiled the last few days anyway, and I think we've got a few more good days lined up for us. But yep, things are moving on. Hi, Ann. Nice to see you. I love seeing the comments when you folks want to get on the keyboard and type them in there. Hi, Billy. So, what have we got going for today? Well, I was thinking the other day, so often as quilters, we are exposed to so many different techniques. And we talk about them and we know about them and we read about them. And maybe some of them we have done in the past. Maybe some of them we've thought about doing, but haven't really got around to it. So I'm just going to walk you through a really, really simple little project today. We're going to do basically a stitch and flip mug rug for Valentine's because, hey, after Christmas, who doesn't want to see a little bit of pink fabric out there today? So that's what's on the agenda. This is something that you can, it's such a simple technique. You can translate this to all kinds of things. And maybe as we go along, we will talk a little bit about some of those other options for you. So how are we going to start? Well, we're going to start with a piece of backing fabric. So this is a quilt as you go. When you're finished, you're finished. Isn't that wonderful? So piece of backing fabric, and I've got the one that's been around for a few years with the breast cancer ribbons on it. And I have already layered that with a piece of quilt batting. And I used a little bit of 505 basting spray just to kind of hold them together. Then I gathered up, I raided Dawn's stash basket up there. I gathered up a whole bunch of pieces of pink fabric. So this is a really good chance to grab that basket you've got at home of your pinks and reds. I don't know about you, but I always sort my bits of fabric into colors. If not, you can work from however you choose to store your fabric. So I raided Dawn's scraps and I got a really good handful of pink and red because we're going to work for Valentine's today. First thing I want to do is we're going to start in the center because this is a similar technique that you could use in doing crazy quilting. And we just might talk about crazy quilting sometime on Facebook. So I'm going to take this little piece of it. It is actually red. I don't know what color it shows up on your computer screen. On my computer, it's almost a neon orange, but we're going to start with this piece of red fabric. And I don't want to be square. I want to be kind of wonky. So I'm going to start by cutting it in half. And then maybe I'm going to cut that off there. And then cut that off there. Cut this off. So what have I got? I've got kind of it almost looks like an envelope, but something with assorted sides on it. We don't have to do that, but it kind of gives our brain a little bit of a clue as to where we want to get started. I am setting that right in the center of my piece of prepared quilt sandwich, and we're going to switch you over here. There you go. So you can see I've got that set just kind of clinging right down there. And then I'm going to take a piece of my scraps I think I'll start with this one. It kind of goes. I'm going to pick a side of my blob in the center, and I'm going to go, yeah, about that long. You don't have to pre-cut your fabrics. You can just go, yeah, I think I want it about that long. If you feel it's too much too big, you get your scissors out and you cut it off. This will work. So now, right sides together, lay those two edges even. And I know this goes like this. That's not going to be a problem. Find your 1/4 inch, lower your presser foot, and away we go. So this is our first seam. Oh, right. Floor model. Turn the speed up. There we go. We don't have all day. There we go. That's our first seam done. And this is why it's called stitch and flip. So now I'm going to flip that open, and you could work with an iron, but I don't have very thick batting under this. So I am just finger pressing that with my fingernail. That looks pretty good together. Now I'm going to pick another side, an adjoining side of my center blob. It really doesn't have a shape. It's just a piece of fabric. I think I'll go with, oh, I like this one. So this piece, you can see, it's a different size as long as it's the right length to cover. Oh, that will work. Oh, maybe I want to go this way. No, we'll go this way. So we're going to just line it up. And it's going to cover right out to there. This is very much an improv thing. And I gave it a test for a different project on the weekend, and I loved it. It's one of those, I'm too tired to really think about things. I just want to live in right brain and not worry about it. So, I've got that stitched. Now I've got all this extra fabric. I don't want to leave that in my project because I might need it. So I'm going to take my scissors, and if you've got some scissors that have a bit of a curve to them, that would be excellent. But I'm just going to trim off as much of that excess fabric as I can. Just pull it like that. There we go. Now when I fold this one open, I have a wedge of that first fabric, and I have a long piece of this one. Which way round shall I work? I think I'm going to work on this side. Now you can see with a project like this, any size piece, you can use it large and trim it down afterwards, or you can kind of trim it as you go. I'm going to use this full piece like this. Drop my presser foot, stitch across, and the edge of my fabric's there. I'm not going to go too far, right there. Now there's not nearly as much fabric to trim off on this one, so I can take that seam back just a bit. Give that a little bit of a trim. It just reduces the bulk in your project. Open that guy out and finger press. Oh, I like that. Let's work around. Oh, let me see. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Now, I think I would like that piece of fabric not quite so large. So I'm going to cut that right now before I sew something else across it. There we go. So my next line is going to be this one. We're going to go right across there. This is cute fabric. This is adorable. As long as we cover both ends, we're good to go. So this is something that you could use for, as we're doing today, a mug rug. If it expands on you, as quilting projects have a tendency to do, you could make it large enough to be a placemat. We're working very fluid and improvisationally. You could start at one end with a nice straight strip, sew two together, flip it. So you could work very, very kind of planned out, very straight, and do wonderful placemats with this. There we go. Now, my next seam right across here. I like that fabric. I think I'm going to leave that fabric that width and pick something else. How about that one? I like this fabric. This is a long piece. Could be kind of cumbersome to work with. So I just might give it a wee trim before I stitch it on. So, see that little corner there? I could put a piece of fabric across there, or I can come across here. I think, I think I'm going to just sew to that point right there, because I can fill that with something else. Playing with fabric is fun, especially on a Thursday coming into February. I hope everybody's been having fun with their sewing. I know I have. I had a very productive weekend last weekend. I made myself a new lunch bag. That was okay. I'm not going to show it to you, but my wonderful Facebook viewers, don't forget to participate. Don't forget, that's a great comment, Carol. Carol says, I have only done this in the hoop. So Carol does a lot of machine embroidery. I like how freeform this method is without the embroidery unit on the machine. This is a wonderful, wonderful method. You can actually make pictures with this as long as you don't mind the straight lines and sharper angles. It's a great freeform, exploratory type of process that we're going through here, and it is also one that can be used for, it's how you begin a crazy quilt. And we just might get on to crazy quilting a little bit later on Facebook as we move further on into the year. But as I was saying, this past weekend was pretty productive for me. I got my new lunch bag made. I got the binding put on a long project I'd been working on for quite a while. And if you will remember our viewers challenge, I actually got mine done. And because there's no prizes, staff can participate. It's going to be fun to see what everybody produces. If you weren't able to catch us on our big announcement, first ever viewers challenge, no prizes. Well, unless we can talk the boss into it, but mostly we're doing it because we love to share with everybody. So your challenge for January is to make a project, not necessarily flat. You can make a bag, you can make a pin cushion, you can make 3D, 2D, doesn't matter. Make a project no larger than 24 inches square, or 24 inches in the largest dimension, that for you celebrates winter. And the only other constraint we put on it was that you have to use something with a little bit of sparkle. So as we get further on into the months and into February, I'll be able to show you mine, but I don't want to give you any tips. We want to see how creative everybody can be. So I'm going to switch you back here. There we go. So I've got that piece on. Flip that out. There we go. That's a lovely color. So now my next piece is going to go right across there. And I am going to use, maybe I'll use a narrower piece. Yeah, that's pretty good. So you just lay it across right about there. And obviously I am lining this up with the furthest into the center line. There we go, that's pretty good. Shrunk that guy off. And always we want to take 90. Obviously we've stitched some of this down, so we could take time to pick that out with a seam ripper. Sometimes when you're working like this, you do tend to do a little bit more unstitching because the design isn't cast in stone, but that's okay. There we go. And it's quite all right to leave a little excess. If you're having trouble detaching some of it, just do the best you can. There we go. As you work with any sort of new technique and new process, you are going to run into times when you have to backtrack a little bit, or you might want to decide to do something differently. But it's all a learning process. I think that's why I really enjoy trying new things. Go. Yeah, that looks okay. So I am just going round and round. Now, if I had chosen to make, to start with a square, say, and start and use straight, evenly cut pieces of fabric, I could easily build up a log cabin block this way, and then it would be already quilted. It would be very little left to work on. So now my next line, I've got a empty space there. This goes this way, this goes this way. So now I can say, where's the line? And if it helps you when you are getting further and further out, to take your quilting ruler and actually draw a line where the next piece of fabric is going to land, that is perfectly all right. Right now I am going to, I think, just go right there. Stop right on the edge. And yeah, that looks all right. So I'm going to cut off some of the excess here. Trim some of these pieces. Now we're sewing straight lines, and it might be fun to try and see if you could do a similar sort of process with a curve. I think it would be a little tricky because it's the folding over that's going to get in the way. I tried it on the weekend. You can get a little bit of a gentle curve, but nothing too dramatic. This is very much a straight line exercise. So if you like sewing straight lines, this is the one for you. Now you can see as I get further and further out that the length of fabric pieces that I need is increasing. So it's always nice to start with shorter pieces of your scraps and move on to the longer pieces as you get further away from the center. Or alternatively, you can always piece your pieces And that's what I was doing on the weekend. So this is looking, I'm kind of liking this. I'm kind of liking how it's going together. Oh, no, we got that one in there already. Oh, there's a different one. Now, is that gonna, that's not gonna be, that's too short, but I like that. Oh, wait a minute. Ha, look at that. Found a longer piece. I have two options when I get to that point. If I really wanted to put that piece of fabric there, I could. I would just end up coming across there with my next round as I go. Because we're a little bit shy on time, I'm actually going right to a piece of fabric that's going to span the whole distance. There we go. But yeah, you can play as much as you want with something like this. There we go. Always have a little bit extra. Carol's having fun. Carol's going to try this out. Maybe. And just the finger pressing like this seems to be enough to hold it flat like that. And because our seams are actually quite close together, there is really no problem with this lifting. You can, if you wish, when this is completed, go back and add more quilting, but it's not really necessary with the size of the pieces that we're working with and the size of the project that we're doing. So I kind of started that a little bit crooked. Not a problem. There we go. I have to admit, from doing this sort of process, it was a lot of years in the past, I discovered that it can grow exponentially on you. You get going and you start sewing these pieces down and the fabrics look so great together and you go, oh, what would this one look like? What would this one look like? And eventually, and you end up with this humongous piece of fabric. So here's a tip. What if instead of sewing a variety of brightly colored fabrics together, we chose to use just our creams, our beiges, our neutrals, and created, oh, I don't know, a piece of quilted fabric that's maybe 24 by 36. It's easy enough to do. Now you have a background fabric that you can carry on and layer maybe a collage piece on. It's already quilted down. It's beautiful and it's using up all of those scrap fabrics. There we go. We're getting there. I'm wondering how much can I go? How far can I go? So, I'm starting to run out of some of these longer pieces of fabric. But I like that idea of creating a background and then maybe doing some, oh, you could do some hand embroidery. You could do some machine embroidery on top of it. So you can improv piece a lovely background for a project that you want to be maybe a little artistic with. Oh yeah, we're doing fine here. So I kind of wanted to get right out to the edge. I'm not sure. How's my time? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I always have to watch the time because hubby doesn't cook. So, but that's all right. That's what leftovers are for. So we're getting there. I think we need something a little bit brighter over on this side. So where's that other guy? I really like this guy. I should have raided more scraps from Dawn. I think those of us who work with fabric all the time, you have your stash at home, you have fabrics that will go together. Don't be afraid just to mix and match, because if you loved it when you bought it, you will likely love it some more when you go to use it, even though it may have been sitting there for a few years. I think I'm going to put on perhaps, let's see what we've got left. One more, couple more pieces, running down on the big guys here. Ooh, no, he's a little guy. We don't want a little guy. We'll put this guy on. Don't be afraid to mix and match your fabrics. There's nothing that a good seam ripper can't fix. But it's really amazing when you start mixing your fabrics, how even the most unusual choices can look wonderful when they're mixed with other fabrics. And the key to that is something I have thought about a lot, especially when I was teaching the color theory class. Most quilts or quilted projects will look wonderful if they have a theme behind them. So this one, obviously, our theme is pink. We just got pink fabrics. Now, sometimes your theme may be fabrics from a particular line of fabrics, kind of like what we have set out here behind me. I know on my computer they look orange, but that was a line of pink fabric, but those are laundry basket fabrics. So when you're choosing fabrics to put in a quilt, you can choose from a full line and mix your colors, or you can choose from a selection of different lines of fabric and just mix or stick to one color palette. Sometimes the unifying feature is a style of fabric. All of my fabrics will have leaves on them. Doesn't matter what color they are, but they'll have leaves of some sort. That can unify your project and make even the most different types of fabric look like they belong together. There we go. Now obviously I could carry on putting pieces of fabric around the center until I had filled my whole space, but that would be a mug rug for two, I think. So we're gonna pause there like that. Maybe what I'll do, I'm gonna scoot over here, switch cameras. We're just gonna hold up the whole piece here. It looks like a little house. Woohoo! Hey, it does actually look like a little house. I didn't plan that, but it's kind of cool. So what do you do with it when you get it to that stage? Well, this is pink. We're thinking Valentine's. I think I would like to make this a heart-shaped mug rug. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a piece of just scrap paper, check my sizing. That's a little bit too big. If you take a piece of paper and fold it in half, because I don't know about you, I can't draw the same thing on both sides. I can do one side, the other side will be different. Fold your paper in half and draw half a heart. Now, this one is a little big for my project, so I'm going to cut inside that line. I'm just basically cutting out a pattern. Nice little heart-shaped pattern. Of course, you can take anything that might have a heart on it and trace that. So now I have a heart, and I can lay that on my project. So what I'm going to do, lay that down. I didn't bring any pins, but that's all right. And I didn't bring a marker. Ooh, boy, is that ever curling. Look at that, my paper's curling. So what I would do, let's switch you back, like that. I can either trace around my heart, or I can pin this down. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wing it. Yeah, because I didn't bring pins either. So holding it in place, it's not super huge. Lining it up where I want it. I want to stitch that shape. Just stitch it down. Okay? Because when we trim our project, we don't want too many ends flying up on us. So I am going to stitch about 1/4 of an inch outside the shape of my heart. Had I drawn that on, I could stitch right on the line, or I could stitch just outside of it. This is going to give us a clean edge right there, and I love this machine that has the pivot feature. Okay, so that has achieved 2 things. It has secured the edges of my project, and it has actually marked the shape that I want to cut out. So now all I have to do is take my scissors or my rotary cutter. I think for curves I prefer the scissors, and you may want to use a good strong pair of shears. You may want to use the Karen K. Buckley micro serrated ones, because you are cutting through a number of layers here. So I'm cutting about 1/4 of an inch outside, a little less than. I want that stitching line to be inside my binding. And that line of stitching is very easy to see. Turn. And all the way around. So I didn't have to make this heart-shaped. I just thought it would be fun. You could make a flower. You could just make a basic square or rectangle, whatever you feel like. A square or rectangle, of course, you can do a standard binding on. Just trimming a little excess. There we go. Switch you back here. There we go. Yeah, so a square or rectangle, you would just put a standard binding around it. a heart shape like this, and maybe I'll get it done for next week's Facebook, you're going to want to use a bias binding on this so that you can go round those curves comfortably without it stretching. So you could, since it's just for Valentine's, put a very dense satin stitch overcast around the edge and call it done. It's your project. You can do whatever you like. So that is our mug rug for today. A fun process. You can let it be whatever you want it to be. I see a question here from Judy. Judy's asking what machine I'm working on, and I am working on a Brother. I usually take the Brother off the floor because that's what I sew on at home, so I'm comfortable with it. I know where the buttons are, and I know we have a lot of programming here that is going to show you the whole variety of machines that we carry here. But this happens to be the Brother BQ 2500. It's a workhorse. It's not an embroidery machine, but it has a lovely big throat space on it. Let me show you here. Pop that over. There you go. I think it's about 11¼ inches here. So if you like to do some of your own quilting at home, lots of space. Obviously, lots of feet that you can change. Drop-in bobbin. Very easy to get in and out here. Now these are features that a lot of machines have. So fumbly fingers, come here. These are features that a lot of machines will have. So come here. Your bobbin goes under that thing and through that little guy, pops off like that. It's got features, pop on, pop off feet for most of them. Obviously the basics, reverse stitching, needle up, needle down. It does have a thread cutter. One of the things that I like about it, if you're thinking of upgrading, if you have a basic machine, is this guy. Threads the needle, perfect. And then when I'm going to see, hopefully I don't make you dizzy. Don't make anybody dizzy. I just want to kind of pull this back so I can focus a wee bit on its control panel. There we go. Easy there, camera. I will move the machine instead. There you go. So on this particular machine, you have utility stitches, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 menus of utility stitches there. I usually use the quilting one. Varieties in there, so 3 pages on that menu. You also have decorative stitches, and you have different fonts on there. And I have used a selection of those. They're fun to play with. One day, it's on the bucket list, I will make myself one of those stitch booklets where everything is stitched out. It has an on-screen tension adjustment if you're working with different threads, on-screen stitch length, stitch width if you're doing zigzags, left right shift for your needle. I'm pretty basic. I like to use the quilting menu and the center position. This is the pivot. With that on, when you stop, your needle remains down, your presser foot lifts up. You can also, and we demonstrated this, we demonstrated this last week when we were doing our Y seams, this little guy. This is your automatic tacking stitch. You can also program it to automatically cut your threads when you stop sewing. But because I tend to stop and start a lot, I didn't use that one. On-screen free motion, and it will tell you right up here, yeah, it will tell you that with that engaged, you need to put on a free motion foot. So it is kind of a nice in-between product. If you don't want to go super high end with all the bells and whistles, but you still want a lot of features for what you're wanting to do. I am a great believer in choosing a machine or a tool that meets your current needs and some future needs. Too many people overbuy. They buy things with 300 features and they use 12 of them. So I think for us here at my sewing room, we always try to match the machine to the person. At least I do, because I think that's really important. So that's about it. We had somebody who just bought the Brother NQ700. That's amazing. So yes, by all means, drop into the store. We'd be happy to let you test drive any of them that are out there on the floor. That's why we have our floor models out there. So thanks for joining me today. I'm not sure what's coming up tomorrow. I know Leah's teaching during the day, but I'm sure we'll have something wonderful for you. And it was great to see everybody. Any questions about any of these? Remember, the videos will be up hopefully in a week or so, and you can always give us a phone